if you remember in chapter 5 of part 1 of Mesilat Yesharim, of Derech Hashem, different class, though the book here says Mesilot El Derech, but it's Derech Hashem, the path to God. And we started chapter 5 a while ago, and we got sort of bogged down into a couple of issues. But we are going to sort of back up and move forward. So, just to recap, the beginning of chapter 5 tells us that the existence in the universe fall into two boxes, or two categories. The first category is of entities that are physical, that we can experience through our senses. Right? You remember this? And the second category are things that are spiritual that we cannot sense through our senses. And then those two boxes get divided into two boxes each. Okay? So in the physical box, there are earthly entities that are physical, and there are non-earthly things that are physical, such as stars, the moon, planets, right, comets, all those lovely things. Those are objects or entities that we can experience through our senses, yet they are not on earth. And earthly physical things are plants, inanimate objects, rocks, whatever, people, all those sort of things. So those are the boxes, right? So you have all the things in the universe that fall into two boxes: physical and spiritual. The physical are things that are on earth and things that are not on earth. Not on earth means planets and stars and comets and all this lovely stuff in space. Now what's in the box in the spiritual box? In the spiritual box we have two things: souls and incorporeal entities. Incorporeal means non-physical, no body. Corpus is the Latin word for body. Right? Heard of the city called Corpus Christi, Texas? So it's the Corpus Christi is the body of the Messiah. And there's a Jewish community there, and they're called the Jewish community of Corpus Christi. So, why not? That's the name of the town. Fine. There's Jews in Corpus Christi. So in the incorporeal entities, we have angels, and what the Ramchal calls spiritual forces. Kochot nivdalim. Okay? There is one category, I don't want to discuss it in detail. We can get into it privately if you'd like. There is a category that is in the middle of all of this, which is called shaded, which are demons or ghosts.
They're in between spiritual forces and...
Yes. What?
The third category.
They're sort of like, they're non-physical.
Yeah.
They seem to be more spiritual because you only have two choices, physical or spiritual. Those are the two.
Yeah.
But they have some characteristics of physical.
Well, physical needs spiritual.
No?
What's
What are you sitting on?
chair?
Does it have a spiritual side? It's physical.
Doesn't everything in the physical world have a spiritual root?
The chair?
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking you.
You're learning Torah.
No, the chair itself.
The chair, this.
You're using the
This
chair as a
table.
tool to learn Torah.
I'm saying does the chair
What about the toilet paper?
spiritual
People don't like that. Like, Rabbi, don't use those examples, man. Is that...
No, but you're using the tool to help you learn Torah.
What? Thank you, Yitzchak. Right. brought to you by, I don't know that I would necessarily say that. It depends on what we define spiritual. Depends what we define spiritual. Because remember, in the category of spiritual, you have two things. Souls, neshamot, and nivdalim, incorporeal beings. Incorporeal beings are fallen to either angels or forces. So does the chair have an angel? See, what you're talking about in terms of an angel, that Yishai, you're talking about animate objects. Inanimate objects, I'm not so sure. We're going to have to discuss that. Okay? So animate objects, yes, they have a spiritual. But inanimate, like a rock? You want to say that has a spiritual side? Huh?
All the way around. Every spiritual has to have a physical.
God?
Be in this world.
God? An angel has to have a physical? Want to say that?
No, God is an exception.
So we have exceptions. But what about angels? All angels have to be instantiated in matter some point? All angels, what you're telling me is all angels have to have a physical connection?
That's how they interacted with Abraham.
Yes, but those are just 3 angels.
Right.
There's millions of other angels, but you think every single one of them had to come in contact with matter?
Right, but they were archangels, and that means that they were some of the more closer to God.
I don't know about that. I don't know about the concept of archangels. You have to show me a Jewish source that talks about that.
Okay.
They're big angels, they're important, but they're angels. But there's lots and lots of other angels.
Yeah, but
And not all of them have physical instantiation. That's what I'm sort of pushing back at Natanel. Okay, let's move on. There's only one being that is perfectly in the middle, that is made up of physical and a spiritual. The demons are not made up of physical and spiritual as man. They share the characteristics of, but they're not exactly. Okay? That's a separate talk we could talk about what those are. And I'll bring you pictures. I'm kidding. No pictures for you at home. No pictures.
just paper and crayons.
That's right, paper and crayons.
What do they share physically?
They have an effect in the physical world.
Therefore, they have to have a physical aspect of themselves.
They have to, yeah.
Like what?
I said, let's talk about this later. So a human being, all human beings are made up of 2 parts. A physical part, which is the body, and a soul. And the soul is placed in the body. And it doesn't exist in any other creature. If you look at all the creatures in the universe, none of them have this. We are made of a neshama and a guf. He says, and don't be mistaken, and we already talked about this, that animals have something called the nefesh. Nefesh is also termed as a soul, but it's not a neshama. It's a different type of entity. So they have a neshama, a nefesh, and it is something that is gashmi. It is something that is physical. Whereas the neshama is something completely spiritual. Okay. Now, one of the major principles in Judaism, says the Ramchal, is to understand that whatever exists in the lower world, which is the physical world, there is something that corresponds to it, some sort of an incorporeal power or a force exists in the spiritual world. So we're really talking about a multiple dimension universe or existence. There is the physical universe that we see, and there is another spiritual one that you don't see. Always the question that everybody should ask me, how do you know this? Right? Because if you're telling me something exists that I can't see, I can't smell, I can't taste, I can't hear, and I can't touch, And that's how I know of things that exist. Right? There are people who tell you, I only believe things that I touch or see or exist. Like, are you sure? You want to go along with this? But that is a very important question. How do we know that there is another side to reality? There's a spiritual side. But he says anything that's physical is connected to something spiritual, that there is sort of a chain, right, that connects the powers of the spiritual realm. And how do we know? Because that is our Masorah. That's what we learn in the Torah. That's what the Torah teaches. And the Torah also teaches us that on every substance and every accidental quality to a substance, I'm using very specific philosophical terminology, and we can talk about it in just a second, that are in this world, there is an angel that pays attention to what happens. Substance, according to Aristotle, and most of the medieval Jewish philosophers use this, it means an entity that is made up of matter and form, like a human being, a cat, a hippo, a panda. You like pandas? Pandas are cute. You went to this? They have pandas here?
No, they didn't have my red panda. My red panda is my favorite animal.
Mm-hmm. Red panda, okay? You could read a regular panda, just painted red. Somebody shaved a dog to look like a lion. Okay? And they took pictures. No, what was it? No. Sorry. Do you see the Chow Chow dogs?
Yeah.
So they painted them to look like pandas, and people took pictures with them, and then they sued the zoo for tricking them that they weren't really pandas, they were just dogs. Like, can't you tell that it's not a panda? But you have a picture, yeah, okay.
Did they win?
I don't know. It's interesting though, right? So we have in halacha, we have a concept of gnevas dat, that you're not allowed to cause somebody to think something that isn't true. You try to steal his mind. You know, like being extra nice to someone. Let's say like you would invite me, come visit me, Rabbi, come visit me, and you know that I'm not going to come visit you. But you're inviting, but I'm not going to. So that's like, you want me to think like you're, so nice, and you're inviting me all the time. That's a type of gnevas dat. It's a classic example.
But your hope could be that you show up one day.
No, but some people, that they're never going to show up. They're not going to show up. They're not going to come. But you're inviting them anyway. And you know that they're not. Or, somebody comes to your house and goes, oh, since you're here, let me open the best bottle of wine that I have, And it's like, it's not. It's just like, this is the wine and it's not like a big deal, but you're making like, this is my best wine I'm opening for you. And you're like, wow, you did this for me. What?
It's an opinion.
Yeah, but
You
you're...
think it's the best one, you think it's the worst one.
No, but what if he knows that it's not the best wine? But he says, this is the best bottle. $200. Chateau de Moulin. Right? They all have this funny name. So, you open and you pour here. I opened just for you. But it wasn't. It was open already. You do this game all the time. Right?
But if they do it all the time, then you're not really thinking that.
But you don't know. Why? But you assume that they do it. This is what they do, like whenever you show.
Their personality, like they're always.
But is it sincere? It's not sincere. So, okay. So there's an angel on top of it. And he says, Ikar metziut ha'olam u'matzavo ha'amiti u'bakochot ha'em ha'elyonim. True reality and the true state of existence is really what is happening in the spiritual realm. That is true existence. This world is a reflection of what's happening up there. Okay?
What do you mean by reflection? Because when I think of reflection, I think of something like I'm looking like in a mirror. It's doing exactly what I'm doing, but the opposite.
It's not. I wouldn't say the opposite.
So like, are there a bunch of like angels sitting around the table learning?
No. You don't have to look at it like that because there's no tables and there's no sitting.
Right. So I'm asking, what do you mean by?
We will get to it. You'll see.
Floating around?
Floating around. Is there around?
And the spiritual
Are
world
they
is different
floating
from
in
up to
a
Olam Haba. Or no?
Correct.
It is. That's something else.
Correct. Olam haba. Correct. Yeah.
So you don't go to the spiritual world. You go some.
Not to this aspect of it.
Yeah.
Not this aspect of it.
Is it a reflection of, when you say reflection of our existence here? Is
No,
that
we are a reflection of
we're a
what's
reflection
happening
of
up
it.
there.
So that's including us, that's including people all over the world,
Correct. Absolutely.
no matter what faith, etc.
Yeah. And you'll see why in just a second. So the world is run in two parallel, contradictory ways. Okay? There is one from top to bottom, and the other one's from bottom to the top. One of them is necessary, which means you can't really do anything about. And the other, so it's somewhat determined. Top to bottom. Yep. And from down here, up there, it's solely based on our free will. And hence, it is dependent on what you make, what you decide. Okay? So, in the spiritual realm, you have God guiding all of the physical world towards his goal of what he wants. Okay? And that is independent of us. And it affects the physical world. And in that sense, we don't have a lot of free will with regard to that side because we're made out of matter. And there are things that are just necessary for matter. There's nothing you can do about it. Okay? But on the other hand, there is going up, which is what we do when we are faced in different situations. That affects what happens up there. And in return, it affects what happens down here. Right? You make a choice, you come to learn, it has an effect. So it has an effect down. You make a decision to go and hang out in Eilat, right? So it has an effect when it comes down. Right? It is, although it's contradictory, they're parallel, they're interrelated, and they affect one another. And the one that's coming from top down is what we call in Judaism sachar va'onesh, reward and punishment. So that when you do a particular act and you're supposed to get a reward, you get the reward whether you like it or not. Right? If God decides to send you $1 million, is it coming to you? Nathanael.
I accept it.
Really? You think it's dependent on you? It's coming to you.
When, in what sense? In the spiritual sense? Or
The physical $1 million.
What if you have the choice to turn it down?
You have a choice. Of course you have a choice. But you're getting it. It comes into your rishus. You decide to do with it what you want. You could say, I don't want it. I could burn it. I can give it to tzedakah. I could go to Vegas and put it on
Black.
I was going to put on red. So, the reward, and it's the same thing if a person deserves punishment. If a person did a sin that God is sending down a punishment, can he avoid it? It's coming. And when it happens, the question is, what do you do with it? Do you complain and you say, how could you do this to me? Come on, it wasn't that bad. So what? It was just an ugly kitten. I just put it out of its misery. You get more, And if you say, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have done it. You're right, I should have slowed down with my moped, and not run over the poor duck. Right? Whatever. So then it changes. You're sending up a different signal than what's coming down, and then that would affect it. That's how the world is run. That's how the world is run. There's an aspect of it that is determined, not based on what you do, or it's independent of your free will. It is based on what you're doing to some extent. And there is a side that is completely based on what you do. The choices that you're going to be put in front of you are not really up to you. But once you have door number 1, 2, and 3, you get to choose which door to walk through. When you walk through that door, you have a new set of decisions to make. And you walk through that door, another set of decisions. If you make, it's kind of like, they use, I don't know if they still do it on the GRE, like if you took the GRE, when you asked the question, it was like level, 1. If you answered it, then you go to level 4. And then you answered, if you screwed up, then you go back to level 2. That's sort of like, you grow in spirituality and in holiness and perfection, you're moving. But if you screw up, you drop, a couple of steps. What?
It's like snakes and ladders.
Snakes and
The
ladders.
game you roll the dice.
Yeah,
do
yeah,
they go
right.
forward or do they go
Right.
backwards?
Yeah, we have shoots and ladders. It's okay. Same. There's a question on the table of what is this business of up and down? What do you mean by that?
The destination is the same.
Correct. The reason we say up and down is because we refer to spirituality as something that's more elevated than something that's physical.
But still, I need to make more sense of it.
Okay, then let me know how it goes.
I want you to do it for me.
Okay.
Whenever somebody pictures heaven, they picture it up in like clouds. And so I think it's more metaphorically speaking that it's going up to heaven and then coming down from heaven.
Physicality is always seen as being pulled down. Gravity. Correct?
Is gravity?
Gravity only works on physical entities. Non-physical entities, gravity can't.
Fire.
What about fire?
Because like fire, like if you light a match, like it seems that the only thing holding that fire there is the match. So like, what if you have fire without?
Well, it's just heat
without
heating up
what's
around
holding it
the
down?
oxygen.
It shows up.
Well, you have to have a source of energy for the fire to burn.
I understand you have to have a source of energy.
And you have to have a
but
catalyst.
Does gravity affect? Because gravity doesn't affect helium.
It does, to the extent that the helium is affected. Helium is a lighter gas, so it can go up. But you have, it depends on how heavy it is. And with regard to that has to do with, the elements and the neutrons, all that of the, they weigh differently. Don't make me ask you, like, what weighs more? A kilo of feathers or a kilo of tomatoes?
They're both kilo.
Good. Oh, Hashem. Good. You could stay in Or Samech for another week. If you would have said, "Oh, it's the feathers,"
Tomatoes, dude.
pack your stuff. What?
Tomatoes.
Yeah. All right. I hope. All right. Let's finish. I want to finish chapter 5 in the next 15 minutes.
Okay.
So we spoke about these two decisions. Okay. Good. Boom. 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 All right. Now he says that in order for us to have free will, we really have to have two choices, don't we? And what are the choices?
To do something or not.
Good
Good or bad?
or bad?
Yeah.
You have to have two options of good or bad.
Does that fall into the category? Sorry.
What about?
Yeah, what?
Does that fall into the categories of getting closer to Hashem or further away from Hashem?
Fine.
Can you do?
You'll see. I'm going to talk about this. Now, I moved a little. I mentioned this last time in class. I didn't mention it now, and since we have a couple of folks that are just joining us, it's very important for them to be aware of that our decision making affects the physical and non-physical universe, not only according to our actions, but also according to our words and our thoughts. And where do we learn that our thoughts affect what happens? From the 10 Commandments. If you look at the 10 Commandments, some of them have to do with actions, like don't steal. That's honoring your parents is honoring your parents. I don't know about don't kill. That's an action.
But honoring your parents, if you like stand up for your father whenever he walks into a room, you don't sit in there.
could do it without
But you could be honoring your parents by like, oh yeah, I guess.
I think he's right. I think I would put that. Right? Lotin af, don't commit adultery. Right? That is an action. What about in thought? Give me commandments in the 10 Commandments that are about thought.
Coveting.
Believing in God, coveting. Good. What about speech?
Yeah, don't speak last. Is that one of them?
No, it's not in there.
I
No.
think so, no. Don't tell lies.
Don't tell lies. Right? And don't be a false witness. Don't take God's name in vain. Right? So we see even in the 10 Commandments, something that everybody knows, you could see that they fall into at least those 3 categories. There's a category of thought, there's a category of words, and there's a category of actions. And so all those 3 affect what happens here. So you have to make sure that you keep your mind clean. Don't think of things that you shouldn't think about. Okay? Now, in order for us to have choices, free will, we have to have a choice between 2 alternatives. And the alternatives have to be different. It's not from good and better, but you have to have really good and bad. And so really the source of bad is what we see has built into the universe in order for us to have free will. And hence we have 2 decisions to make. We could either do a tikkun, repair the world, or kilkul. Kilkul means to wreck the world, make it worse, damage it. Okay? Those are the 2 choices you have in every situation. You're going to put your foot on the table when we're learning, or you're going to sit nicely and listen. Right? You're going to have to make a decision here. In an Arab country, you'd be put to death, right? So there are 2 ways that we could make a tikkun. We people think only one, but there's 2 ways. One is to do the mitzvahs. That's a tikkun. Do the mitzvahs that the Kadosh Baruch Hu commanded in every case, and you're repairing the world. You're making this world a better place. You're making yourself a better person. You're making this your community, your family, so on and so forth. But also there's another side. There are things in the Torah that seem to be neutral. They're not a mitzvah. But you can do it as a mitzvah. For example, eating. You're not required to eat, right? But you do need to eat. So do it in a way of saying, the reason I'm eating Hashem is in order so I have strength and I have a healthy constitution to serve you. You just turn something that is mundane, something that's neutral, into the mitzvah column. And that adds more power to the repair side. As opposed to say, I'm eating because I want to eat. Give me that extra hot dog. Yeah, I washed. Yeah, I'll bench later. But what am I eating for? Because I'm eating the hot dogs. I'm like, I just joined a hot dog eating contest. And yeah, I washed before and I'm going to bench later. But in the meantime, what am I doing? I'm stuffing my face like a little piglet. There's no purpose to it. There's no reason for that. Take the things that are neutral and elevate them and do them in a sense of holiness. Those are the 2 ways to repair. Do the mitzvahs, and then the things that seem to be in the neutral zone.
So what do you mean? What do you exactly mean in the neutral? Those desires?
Of why you're doing what you're doing. Sleeping. You could say, dude, I'm tired. I'm going to take a nap. Or you could say, Hashem, I'm tired. If I sleep, I can learn better. I can concentrate better. So I'm going to go put my head down, close my eyes, because my whole point is to serve you. I'm going to bed.
But What if you say that and you end up missing a class?
Then I come after you banging on the door. Where are you? Wake up! Be responsible. It's all about responsibility, isn't it? We have to be responsible. And you make a choice. You can put your alarm to wake up at, 5 to 3. Wash your face, use the restroom, run to class, get here just before the teacher gets here, eager, or you can just show up 3:10. Okay. So, how does this work? What's the good and what's the bad? The good is saying that we increase the light of Hashem. What's the bad? We decrease the light of Hashem. The emes, the truth, is that there is good. Evil is not real. It's simply the absence of good. Okay? That's what the Ramchal explains here. And we will get, and in a sense, when God's light is removed, it is as if He is hiding His face. But what caused the hiding His face? The choices that we make. As an individual, He could hide His face from us in our lives. As a group, as a people, as a world, as a city, as a county, whatever, it keeps growing. But all depends on what we do. And there are different names for it, of this lack of light, decrease of light. It's called tumah, impurity, darkness, filth, and so on. And the light is called holiness, purity, blessing, and so on. So there's lots of terms in Judaism. Says the Ramchal, they all mean the same thing. They all refer to the same thing. Essentially, the image that I gave is kind of like, you're under a shower, it's cold outside, this is like a fresh hot water, it just feels great. And all of a sudden, you're like, what happened? Who turned off the water? But nobody turned off the water, you just moved like this. So now you have to move back. You move back, the water, and then again you're like this, like, who's turning off the water? It's your actions, your thoughts, your words, your emotions. What you do, in the wider sense, affects whether you get this hot water shower or you don't. But it's up to you. It's up to you. Let's stop here. Mincha will start promptly at 3:45.